Guten Abend. Welcome to the spring semester of German 102. This will be a rather brief video meeting, so to speak, in which I want to go over the course syllabus very briefly. Most of it you can take a look at in your own leisure. Those of you who took German 101 will notice the syllabus is very similar, just with some updated information for the next level of German. So, ich heiße Herr Dr. Thomas. I'll be the instructor. Hopefully we'll be able to meet each other in person very soon. As mentioned, as you know, obviously this is German 102. And here's some information about my office hours. By appointment will always be the best way to meet with me. So if you need to meet with me for any reason, please do so by appointment. Otherwise, these will be my generic office hours. There may be a slight room change just when we start resuming classes in person, but as of right now, we are scheduled in room 126, of course, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6:30 to 7:50 or 7:30-ish, depending if we take a break, which oftentimes in evening class we won't, so we'll probably get out a little bit earlier. This course, as you can imagine, is elementary German, or the basic German, and it will introduce us to everyday topics, using Deutsch na klar as our primary text. If you have your book, you will see that we will actually start in chapter 5 is where we left off last semester. So you may hear me opening up my book right now, but I'm looking in chapter 5, which is Einkaufen, which is shopping, including ordering food at a restaurant. And then chapter 6, no, excuse me. We will begin with chapter 6. I beg your pardon, right? We'll begin with chapter 6, which is eating out, für gehen aus, including ordering food at local eateries. And then we will move forward to Kapitel 7, Freizeit und Sport, free time and sports. And then Kapitel 8, chapter 8 is wie man fit und gesund bleibt, on health and nutrition. And then chapter 9, in der Stadt, life in the city, will probably bring us to the last chapter in our textbook for the quarter. Beyond that, if I can navigate this, we will be, as I mentioned last time, we'll be spending a fair amount of time relative to our meeting schedule reading a Grimm's fairy tale to be determined based on your guys' interests. Fairy tales are great in German for a number of reasons. One, because they're relatively well known. As you can imagine, oftentimes learning a foreign language, there's an element of uncertainty or foreignness, because most of us are familiar with Grimm's fairy tales, especially the more famous ones. We're going to have some confidence that we're understanding the story, and that, of course, will allow us to focus on Deutsch or German and the vocabulary necessary to understand the story in German. Your final exam will also be a skit based on previous classes, based on the fairy tale that we read and discuss first. Those of you that took German 101, once again, the graded format of the course will consist of skits. Again, those of you returning know exactly what I'm talking about. Those of you that are taking 102, I'll explain this in due course, but instead of written exams, I have adopted for several years now oral performance for a variety of reasons. Above all, I think students actually learn a little bit more German versus taking written exams, and students generally enjoyed these more so than written exams as well. And so you'll have 3 oral skits. For example, you would do a skit based on the content in Chapter 6, namely going out to eat, a restaurant scene, maybe a scene at the fitness center to follow Chapter 7, and so on and so forth. And then your final exam will be based on the Grimm's fairy tale. For example, each of you adopt a character in the story that we're reading based on your role in the group. We'll divide the class probably in groups so that everybody has a unique role to play, and then you'll perform that character in German for your final exam. Again, those of you returning, I think you'll agree this is a very sensible way. Those of you that are hearing this and taking German for the first time with me, I think you'll agree once we do the first oral skit in particular that this is a very sensible way to approach graded work. Other than that, trying to think of other kind of outstanding details that we might want to talk about. I will recommend, one, of course, there's so many resources available, especially with the internet, but this content is also available online, but I think it's nice to have it in an organized manner. I would recommend, you can see here it's not required, but recommend English grammar for students of German. Not quite sure of the latest price. It's probably, I would think you can get a used copy for not too expensive. But this series is nice because, especially for foreign language students, because it has the target language, in this case German on one side and the English on the other, kind of giving a side-by-side comparison of German grammar. Speaking of German grammar, one of the things that we'll talk about in greater detail next time, but you might want to get a head start on it, is I will be, for my next video lesson, going into some detail about the cases in German. Here I'm kind of just giving you just a screenshot overview, and I'll be giving some examples of the cases. In my view, although there are many elements in German, this is kind of the key, or certainly one of the keys for understanding German grammar and using speaking, listening, writing, and so forth, using German effectively. So I'll talk about this in my next video lesson. And as I mentioned in an earlier email tonight, the plan going forward is, until we can get back in the classroom full time, is to have one rather detailed video lesson beginning with grammar or literature, some aspect of Germanistik or German studies, something you might do in a kind of more literary, philosophical based German class. And then the other time we meet will be a virtual classroom. I know there's some various tools that you're probably using in other classes. I'll explore those over the weekend and kind of see which one makes sense. If you have any input on what apps or what tools rather that you're using in other classes, please let me know. I know in the past I've used Windows Teams, but I don't think Campbell uses Windows Teams. But there's some other things I believe are available through Blackboard, which I will look at a little bit over the weekend. But let me know if you can, if you have anything in particular that you want to recommend. So as I mentioned, just to kind of summarize that, because I was kind of long-winded on that, will be, until we get back in the classroom, the class will consist of a video tutorial, which I'll send you, for example, about grammar or literature, and the other one will meet online at our normal time, 6:30, either on Tuesday or Thursday, to work on spoken German. Schedule still to be determined. I think at this point, let's go ahead and plan on me sending out, and I'll communicate this via email as well, but let's plan on next Tuesday you receiving the video tutorial going over the German grammar, and then next Thursday we will plan on meeting online for a more communicative oriented session based on the material in Chapter 6 from our textbook. I think that's about it, right? Obviously, please send me an email if you have questions about the class or if you're having trouble getting the textbook. But in short, again, I hope to see everybody in class in person, rather sometime soon. But in the meantime, whether we're doing it in person or remotely, we'll try to make German interesting and fun, and focus on vocabulary and grammar and culture and some other references that may come up. And beyond that, I will look forward to communicating with you and talking with you and seeing all of you in the very near future. Auf Wiedersehen.